So does he. I get a lot of stuff about him.
Hey, I think we'll get started. Before you ask your questions or make your statements to me, I'd like to say a few things to open up, but since we've got TV here and other media people, when we're done here and we save time for you, we're going to go whatever that room is right there in the corner. So you go in there and I'll meet you there and we'll have a little press conference there at the end of my answering questions here. First of all, since it's Friday, I should tell you that I'm in Iowa instead of in Washington, D.C. because this is a non-vote day and I think it's connected to the Monday holiday. And so I got this weekend to do 7 counties. I'll do 2 on Monday and then 4 today and 1 tomorrow, and like that. It starts my 38th year of having an A in every county. I just did a business in Council Bluffs because I don't get people that work for business to my town meetings. I'm going to go to a high school because you never get young people to come to high school, so I'll be at Mapleton when I get done here. Things like that, that's what I do to try to have a cross-section of population. Let's see, the next 2 or 3 things that I'd like to remind you of. This is the best way to have dialogue with your constituents, but it's not the only way. So when you can't see me face to face, you ought to email me. There's a form on grassley.senate.gov that you can get to email me, and we get more emails than anything else. Also, over the course of 2017, I was able to meet with, over a course of 12 months, with 950 different groups of people that came to my Washington office because I reserved from 3 to 5 for 8 15-minute meetings with anybody that wants to see me when I'm in Washington, D.C. And then, besides email, you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter at Chuck Grassley, or Instagram at Senator Chuck Grassley, or an email that we put out, not an email newsletter that we put out on usually on Saturday morning that gives you some updates. So that's how I encourage you to keep in touch with me when we can't be face to face. But this is the best way to do it because you can look at me and I can look at you. So I think that's maybe one other thing I'll say. Since I always promise to answer all your emails. Oh, one other thing. If you call in and you leave your name and address, then we answer that on paper. So make sure you leave your name and address if you want an answer to what you're telling me. The other thing is, since I promised to answer all that stuff, sometimes something might fall through the cracks and you don't get an answer, and then you think I don't keep my promise. Well, let me know. The other thing is, you don't get an answer. I get a daily report, and I hate to give you a figure because you'll think I don't answer any of my mail, but right now we're about 21,000 behind, but we answered 2,800 yesterday. We got 2,000 today, as an example. So it's kind of like an assembly line, things come in and things go out. Who wants to be the first to ask a question? Go ahead.
The new e-log thing that just went into effect in December for our truckers.
Yeah.
We have some farmers who truck to supplement their income, and they truck for other people, and some of them truck over the road. It's kind of putting a hardship on some of them I've talked to because of the $1,500 it costs for each unit that you put in your truck, plus the $300 tech fee that you have to pay. And also it kind of gets some of them to go over the speed limit because they're trying to get back home from wherever they're going to try to fit into this e-log thing. Can you address some of the ins and outs of that?
The first thing I'm going to say is it will make you very happy, and it doesn't make me very happy to say it. I don't think there's enough appreciation of what the small trucker is facing compared to the big trucking companies around the country, and I'm not sure the big trucking companies care about the people that you're talking about. And so what we've tried to do is for a certain group of people, delay implementation of it. But eventually, I think, I wouldn't want to tell you that we can continue to do that. But I've been part of that, particularly for livestock truckers, because you can't load livestock in a truck and then let it sit around for several hours while you're obeying the rules, see? So that's the best update I can give you. And I wish it was a more satisfactory update.
Is there going to be any improvement on this law or any additions or corrections to it to kind of help these folks? I know a couple of them I've talked to have lost drivers, and truck drivers are already in a shortage even for the big companies.
There's a real shortage of truck drivers.
And they've lost drivers because of this.
All I can tell you is I'm going to try to bring your point of view before Congress, but I'm not on the Commerce and Transportation Committee, so I'm not in on the ground floor. If you want to ever contact somebody in my office, Sherry Coons from Waterloo, Iowa, she's been on my staff about 20-some years. She works in this area. If you want to get a more in-depth update from her, you can get a hold of her through my office. Okay. Yes, sir.
Senator, I just want to say thank you for coming out today.
Thank you.
I have friends all over the country. None of my other friends say, yeah, my senator comes to see me every year. And so I just want to say, and on behalf of the rest of people, so you don't have to keep getting the same comment, thank you for coming out today. It is below zero weather. All of us really appreciate your being here.
Before I call on you, it's 62 degrees in Washington this morning. Hey, I see your hand up. I call on her, and if I don't call on you next, you'll think I'm going to try to avoid you. Just keep raising your hand. Go ahead.
So, good morning, Senator Grassley. I'm Denise O'Brien from Atlantic. I'm a farmer. We've done some work together.
Yes, well, I
about
know
30
you.
years. Yes. You do know me.
I'm glad you told me your name because
Yeah.
I don't always.
Well, I think the last time I saw you, I was in D.C. working with Oxfam on international issues. But I appreciate you traveling the countryside to fulfill your obligation as our employee. You are a public servant, and we elected you to that position. So, and I appreciate the people that have come out this morning.
Sure.
I think it's almost vice versa of what this man said over here. But I am disappointed in your neglect of getting to the bottom of the Russian investigation by not releasing the transcripts. I've written this so I can be short and
Sure, go ahead. Now,
to the point.
I'll listen to you.
Okay.
If you want me to comment afterwards, tell me,
I
because
will.
if people just make a statement,
Right.
then I usually go on to the next person.
Sure.
Go ahead.
So the public leads me to, because you've done that, it leads me to assume that you're protecting the current president and not meeting the best interests of Iowans and your constituency. By continually using stalling tactics, you are not even, attempting to discover what the Russian thing was about in the 2016 election. And nothing has been done actually to prepare for the 2018 elections, which we're in this year now. So we need to get to the bottom of this. And in closing, I would also say that I appreciate your years of service. I think a good sign of a good leader is to step aside and let other people go on to do some governing. And like I say, I appreciate your service, but I think as a good leader, sometimes we need to step aside to let other people have the chance to lead.
You want me to quit before my term's up 5 years from now?
No, that's only fair. No, but I think you should. Yes,
You're next.
I have several questions for you. One is, I'm going to broach the topic that she just mentioned also. 5 months ago, you mentioned that you would like to interview Manafort, Kushner, and Don Jr. You've interviewed Don Jr. on a voluntary basis, but yet he refused to answer questions claiming attorney-client privilege.
Sure.
Why have you not interviewed Manafort or Kushner yet?
Manafort, Kushner is still going to be interviewed because we're getting some more documents and that's not done. But Manafort, he would not come before our committee and say anything because he's under indictment. And anything he said before the committee could be used against him. So if we called him, we'd never get any information anyway.
All right, I can understand that then. Why haven't you interviewed Kushner yet?
We're going to do that, and right now, Senator Feinstein and I have letters to him wanting more documents, and we wait till we get the documents, go through the documents, and then we've got a basis for the interviews that we're going to have.
Well, it's been 5 months since you said that you wanted to interview them.
Yeah.
How long does this process take?
Takes a long time.
Okay, when Don Jr. came in, he came in on a voluntary basis. If you would have subpoenaed him, or if you would subpoena Kushner, then they couldn't refuse to answer your questions.
Yeah. We do have an agreement between Senator Feinstein and me on these, but you wait until you're done with the interviews and the documents, before you make a decision to have an open hearing. And a lot of times you don't even have to have what you call a hearing before the committee because you get all your information voluntarily. And so far, I'm not even sure we'll have to subpoena either one of them because they've all been very voluntary in doing what we've asked them to do to this point.
Well, what about Don Jr. refusing to answer for attorney-client privilege? If he was under oath, if you subpoenaed him under oath, he would have had to answer those questions.
Yeah, but see, that issue you're bringing up comes from the Intelligence Committee, so I can't answer that for you.
Okay, well, all right. Will you hold the interviews in public when you do interview Manafort and Kushner? And will you recall Don Jr. back to answer more questions?
No, well, the answer to the other one, if it's needed, the answer is yes. In regard to your first question, they will be Democratic, Feinstein staff and my staff will be interviewing them not in public because that's how you get voluntary compliance. For instance, we wanted to do it with Simpson of Fusion GPS, and he said if we subpoenaed him, he would take the fifth, so we wouldn't get any information. So we interviewed him as we interview everybody else, the lawyers for Feinstein and me, asking the questions.
Well, didn't Simpson say he would take the fifth because you wanted to branch off into subjects of his bank account and history?
That's House
former clients and
that's the House Intelligence Committee where he said that. Yeah.
All right. One other question here. Two other questions actually. To talk about broach what she just talked about. Russia meddling in our elections in 2016. There was a bipartisan bill passed by both the House and the Senate, and which put sanctions on Russia, which was signed into law by President Trump, which was supposed to take effect October 1st, 2017. But yet nothing's been done about that. Why haven't anything been done about that? And what can you do to see that those sanctions are enforced? And what can you do to stop them from interfering in the 2018 elections?
Yeah. Everybody's on board on that, including the president, because he signed the bill, so there's no problem. It's just a question of when to do it and who to do it to.
Well, why hasn't he done anything though? It's a law. He signed it into effect, but yet nothing's been done to punish Russia. The only thing that's been done to punish Russia was what Obama did on December 29th, 2016.
Well, one of the things that we just did to punish Russia is we just gave a massive amount of military equipment to Ukraine as a signal to Russia.
One other question before you go, sir.
I thought you said two questions.
I've got one more question. Will you vote against cutting Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid if it's brought up in the 2000? Will you vote no against cutting Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid if it comes up in 2018?
Well, I don't have to worry about it coming up because as long as the president said he's not for any change in Medicare and Medicaid, or Medicaid care and Social Security, it ain't going to come up. Go ahead.
Hello, sir. I want to tell you something. I think you have some of the most amazing aides I have ever met. I want you to know that. Donna, you're in here. Anyway, Senator Grassley, next month will be 3 years that I organized a group to try and help my father's pension. I have tried to accumulate factual information to show our government, how mismanaged the fund was done to after the federal government pulled it out of the hands of the Teamsters and gave it to Wall Street to manage. Time is of the essence for these retirees. Most of them, Senator, are old. We've lost in 3 years, I can't tell you how many. The majority of these people are old. The Butch-Lewis Act will help resolve this issue. I don't have, unfortunately, the necessary means to get you attrition rates for people. Central states could provide that for you. Other funds could provide that to you. But I'm asking you, have you looked at the Butch-Lewis Act? Would you please consider endorsing it and helping these retirees have a decent retirement so that they can die without having to feel like their country let them down?
I haven't endorsed it because I talked to the committee about it, and they think there might have to be some changes in it. They haven't been very definitive in what those changes should be, but there's some talk of some change in it. So I'm going to wait until that's formalized.
Is there anything we can do to help?
So I don't think the bill would even exist if you haven't already done the hard work. Just keep it up.
All right, thank you, sir.
Okay, way in the back. Can I ask you to stand so I can hear you well?
Yeah, I'm surgeon. I just wanted you to know, I don't know if you know what's happening with the FDA. But the FDA has just come out and said that there's a 90-day comment window, and they want to clamp down on homeopathic medication.
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, their definition of homeopathic medication is anything that Big Pharma doesn't prescribe for us. And what they're saying is, well, they might not be safe, or they might not be useful. That's not their business. And when we allow this to go through, there's nothing they can't regulate under. It's not possibly good, and it's not possible. It's not about safety at this point. It's just they don't want Big Pharma to lose market share. And this is like our vitamin D, vitamin C. I use a lot of this stuff for my patients, and we don't want this to go away. So I really hope you'll get on board. And I don't know what their constitutional authority is for us to have to go begging to them just to have an over-the-counter vitamin. But that's where this is going to go. And the other thing, to show you how dishonest they are, I just went to a talk by a really great neurosurgeon, West Point graduate, 30-year Army colonel, on CBD oil and blast trauma, for head trauma. It's an unbelievable medication that has no downside for head trauma, like our wounded warriors. Now, on the one side, the DEA and FDA says this is a Schedule I narcotic that has no known use and is unsafe. But the H&HS and NIH hold the patent on CBD oil, saying for neuroprotective effect, and they actually say in the patent, no safety concerns. This is the kind of thing that just makes you crazy. But the FDA is not our friend, and every time they say they passed a drug that helps 30,000 people survive their heart disease, what they really did is stall for 15 years, and 30,000 people a year die. We can there's so many things we know and we're not doing, and I'm just saying, this last grab that they're going to do here, this homeopathic medication grab, it may sound like they're worried about our safety, but this is not about that. This is about protecting their friends and farmers, and I hope you'll stand up for that. At some point, I hope you'll take your oath to the Constitution seriously and wonder what their constitutional authority is to do any of this.
You didn't ask me a question, but I want to comment. On the second thing you talked about, I can talk about cannabis oil in regard to epilepsy, but I can't comment on what you brought up because I haven't studied that. In the first instance, for her and for everybody else, and following the law and following the Constitution, the FDA's only got authority in 2 areas to make a decision whether or not they've got control over drugs and make a decision on how they can be sold or if they can be sold. Number 1 is safety, and the other one is whether or not it's effective. So they've got to be within those 2 guidelines. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to make a comment with the doctor. I agree with that. The last time I met with you and everybody, I think it was in Woodbine, Iowa. We have a very large energy homeopathic company there, which a lot of people do are employed there, and I just wanted to say that we do need to look into that on the FDA. And my second comment was on with Mary Packett up front. If you would look into that Butch-Lewis Act that she's talking about, there's over 410,000 of us that are in danger right now of losing our pension, lifetime pension. And if you would look into that, I would sure appreciate it.
I don't know whether every supplement, the lady on homeopathic,
Yes.
the FDA, can I ask you a question here?
Yeah.
My wife's got a whole shelf full of pills she takes. Do those things fall into the, and they're non-prescriptive, do they
That's
fall into
exactly
what
what
you're
they're
talking about?
And we actually have smart ways of doing it, so you don't have to have a whole shelf. You know, we can do special testing, we can customize it to her, and that's one of my jobs when I go to orthopedic surgery. But I'm gonna tell you, they wanna take that all away because, you know, they knock in the doors of people, like she probably shouldn't be taking them, she hopes she's on that list, is coenzyme Q10. Turns out, American Academy of Cardiology just came out, said it actually decreases all-cause mortality of heart disease. What did the FDA do? A couple years ago, they knocked in the doors of the two big suppliers, kicked in the doors, arrested people because they claimed it wasn't efficacious. Again, really? Why do they care? If it's not efficacious, they have no business knocking in our doors and taking away the product. The idea that they have authority that if it's not, because it might not be safe, it might not be efficacious, you realize that describes everything from water to coenzyme Q10 to, you know, they want you to buy amniotic and that's the problem.
Well, let me ask you one more question and then I'll go on. And that question is this, what you're bringing up, I've been in Congress a long time. It's come up several times and FDA's never done anything about it.
Well, the reason is because
Why do you think they're going to do something about it this time to keep you from doing what you're doing?
well, they're slowly doing it. I mean, they slowly have been ratcheting in what they're allowing people to have. Like I said, the only reason that they got stopped on the coenzyme Q10 is enough people like us, the average small person, complained and stood behind a few companies that are now standing up for this. I mean, it was amazing they got it through. But we need you to be the constitutional watchdog against these people. These people don't see that pharma owns B2C. Pharma owns the FDA. It's the same people at the top, the FDA, CDC. They're forcing us to take vaccines. We can get in the science of vaccination, but how free are we as a people when the government can force you to take something? You know?
Hi, thank you for choosing me. I don't know if I have a question or a comment, but I'll start with
You
a
can
comment.
have either.
With a comment. I have respected you for a lot of years because you represent Iowa values, and I've told my kids I'm homeschooling, and these are the children back here that I homeschool. And so we're on a field trip today to learn about our senator. And I've always respected that Iowa values is key in your positions on everything. However, with Trump, I have noticed that the sliding of the scale has been sliding toward his values, which are not Iowa values. The bullying, the racist business, the narcissistic business, the things that he does that are not Iowa values. And I see Congress, and not just you specifically, but all of the Republican Congress is not standing up. My question to you, and with these children in mind, and learning about civics and the three branches of government, what does Congress do to check our runaway president? Somebody that does not represent us in so many areas. He may have some, but he's not. Our playgrounds, we see more bullying, we see more things in our kids because there's no check to his. He is an example to our kids. And when he can bully and say about me, and not about the other person, that it's all about how I look and how I am and all of that business about me first, and we try to tell our children that's not the way we are. But they see that in him, and it concerns me that the three branches of government are not working, because that should not be happening. Our executive leader, our president, should be a sterling example to these grade school children. of not bullying for sure, and all those me-isms that are so important to our president, that's an example that we're setting. Where's Congress? How much is too much? And why isn't that third branch of government stepping up and saying, knock it off? This is not something we want to hear out of your mouth. You know, I just see Congress siding with him too many times, that it's becoming a national front now, and nobody's standing up to him.
I'll try to give you 3 or 4 examples. The courts on the refugee program have stepped in to curb him. This week, a court in California stepped in to curb what he's doing, what he's done on DACA. He was in office 1 month when he issued an order that he was only going to allow his executive branch people to respond to letters just from committee chairmen, you know, and 535 members of Congress can do oversight to check the executive branch, also to check the courts if you want to go that far. He said that. Now, that leaves out 49 Democrats today. There's only about maybe 18 chairmen, so it leaves out about 30 Republicans. So a person that does an awful lot of oversight, like I do, got a hold of the White House, and within a month, they issued that they were going to answer all letters to all members of Congress. See? So I'll just give you those examples, but the trouble is, I don't expect you to know about them because you don't read about stuff like that in the paper. But if you would go to my website, now this is in a previous administration, but and maybe at the end of 2017, I've got some figures, but I don't have them in my mind. But in 2016, I wrote 550 letters investigating things in the executive branch of government. Now, I'm not going to do any less because we have a Republican president than we did when Obama, or stuff like that.
But combining your letters, and that's wonderful, it's great, I'm thankful that you're doing that. But the combination of the senators, the combining the senators and saying, let's do something besides writing these out, let's do something.
The trouble is, I can only do what Chuck Grassley can do.
I understand.
Or I can only do as a collegial body what the Democrats do that Schumer will do for them, or what our leader brings before the United States Senate. He sets the agenda for the Senate.
But you are a leader in the Senate. You can influence a lot of those young little guys that are in there. And you tell them and show them, I can stand up. I have a backbone.
You know what? I have a lot of senators tell me that you're respected, so speak up on this or that. But I think there's a lot of pandering in that state. Go ahead.
Are you not personally concerned about his fitness to serve? And if not, why not? Because I'm very concerned.
Okay, is what?
Fitness to be president.
Is it based upon the mental health? And the reason I'm not a psychiatrist, so I'm not going to make it better.
Be a psychiatrist. You were at the table the other day, the DACA legislation thing, where he agrees with the last person that talked to him. And he gets on Twitter and says the last thing that Fox News told him to say. No. That's not essential. It's concerning.
Okay. Wait a second.
On Gail Stassman from Democrat Iowa.
Well,
are you personally concerned?
I have a job to do. And,
I think you're doing it, but...
and I have a job to do. And I'm not president of the United States. I'm a check on the president.
I wish you were, probably.
I'm a check on the president of the United States. That's my constitutional responsibility. And I guess I'm going to do what I can under our Constitution to make sure that nothing bad happens to our country.
That's what I wanted to hear.
My question is, do you feel like you're being held hostage by Trump? And also, since you gave yourself the biggest beautiful tax cut in history of the nation, and that I would like to have you on record as saying that you're not going to, because of all the deficits that this is going to cause, you're not going to go after Social Security, Medicare, and all these other things.
Well, I think I answered the last.
No, you didn't.
No, you didn't,
No, you
sir.
didn't.
I answered.
No,
just
you
said
did not.
that. You just said it was Trump's thing, or Trump lies.
So, but he asked me if I was going to vote this year to do that, and I said, well, there won't be any vote this year to do
How
it.
do you know? Trump lies.
Trump
He can
flip-flops.
back that up anytime. He can make a,
Then we have to do it. And it is.
but I don't think the Republicans, since you have 5 years left, don't you? Do you really care?
Do I
After- For the next.
Oh, hey.
Yeah.
That's a very valid question.
Well, then why don't you speak up
Stand up.
Well,
to the values of this state, this country, this state of Iowa?
it isn't just a case of speaking up. I'd like to think that everything I do is in regard to the values of
Well, I
America.
appreciate what you do. I do. I appreciate you as a senator.
Okay.
But I think you're being held hostage by Trump.
Well, who voted for Trump?
We did.
I didn't. I didn't.
Well, I think that if there's anything that I have a reputation for, and it gets to this whole subject of oversight, it is that I don't care whether we have a Republican or a Democrat. I've got a bipartisan approach to oversight, and I call it the way it is. And I told that lady there 2 things that I've already done this year that got the administration to change their mind. Otherwise, Congress couldn't function as an oversight if every member of Congress couldn't get their letters answered. Not just 18 of us that are chairmen. And they went in to do that. That's the directive that went out. I could even produce the letter that they sent out, that they said that we're not going to do it. And I said, and I can give you a 7-page letter I sent back to the White House. They got them to change their mind. If you want to read it.
So we need more than letters. We
It'd be
need
on
more
my-
than letters being answered.
Well, you don't have to have a vote to do what I'm doing.
Why do you think they sent out that letter to begin with? What was their motivation for doing that?
I can only guess, and I'll give you my guess. My guess is that they felt that until they got their people in place, there were going to be a lot of bad information go out from the bureaucracy from a lot of people that were left over from the previous administration.
Senator Grassley, I'm unclear on your answer to that man's question. If a vote is brought up to cut spending for Medicare, Medicaid, or Social Security, will you vote no for it?
You know, if I told you that I wouldn't ever vote for changes of Medicare and Medicaid, you know what I'd be saying? I would be saying after 2029 that nobody would get Medicare. And I would say after 2034, nobody would be getting the 100% of Social Security that I get. Because that's what the law says. And I think that my children and grandchildren ought to be entitled to Social Security and Medicare because it's part of the social fabric of America. And if I said there's never going to be any changes in Social Security or Medicare, I would be saying that people that are retiring after 2034 would only get 78% of the benefits I get. That ain't right. I've got a responsibility to make sure that these programs are solid for our children and grandchildren.
But if you won't say no, you will not vote to cut those. If those are cut, that you would consider voting on cutting those programs.
I'm going to vote to strengthen them.
There's a lady's got a question.
Okay, go ahead.
I was wondering, I'm not against legal immigration. I have family members, I have close friends I know that have come to this country legally, and they've done the work to come legally. Why can't we voted Trump in because we wanted to build the wall, increase border security, end chain migration, end the visa lottery system, and then deal with DACA. We need to concern ourselves and improve the legal immigration. I know know someone who's a close friend, daughter, who is going to have to leave legally, and she cannot work here any longer. She may have to leave. She's been here for 20 years. After 20 years, she may have to leave. And she has been contributing to society, working, raising her son, have to split up the family, but yet we're trying to keep these kids here. And so let's work on, like I said, build wall, that list, and then we'll deal with done as far as the Hillary Clinton uranium one. That needs to end. Get rid of that. It's collusion. Excuse my language, crap, that was real.
In regard to your first question, the only thing different than what you said was those 4 things will be done with DACA. And on the second, we still have our constitutional responsibility of oversight to get to the bottom of the real decision, because only he can bring it to fruition if there's something wrong to prosecute, but we can bring all the information out that we get, see. But I don't, all I can say is that so far, except Trump ever run for president.
And Papadopoulos.
Yeah, George. That's the only things that have come up. But there's no doubt Russia trying to do something, not only in the United States. The situation under the Soviet system was a whole system of disinformation. And they aren't to particular president because they don't like their autocrats. They don't like democracy. That's their goal. Go ahead.
I'm hearing we have infrastructure in this country that's falling apart. The roads are falling apart. The electrical is bad. We need to be put together. Then we can worry about a wall. But that wall's not going to stop anybody because it's not going all the way across. They can go across the river. They can use a boat. They can swim. Some places they can walk across. You're not stuck.
It was Bridgman that
Okay.
Can I just ask about this?
Okay, you had a question, yeah?
I just wanted to comment on that. The infrastructure budget upcoming and our priorities of how we expend our dollars and the increased national debt. The data to support that would even make a difference, because over the, I mean, what are we after there? We need hotels and packing plants, and this is a big agricultural state, and we need workers. So if we can get those workers, I think $18 billion and a priority of good, responsible accountability on expenditures. Trump is really wanting to be able to say, that's my wall when it's all said and done. And what happened in China when they put that wall? What was the outcomes of those China? We need to look a little bit at history and what some things that have occurred and what those outcomes were. So I appreciate, and I want to appreciate your letter that you sent me on the Social Security questions that I had, and I support you on that.
I want to thank you because your Washington, D.C. is so complicated. How you as a single person can get anything. It just sounds like there are so many people who rule, that have money, the pharmacy companies, but you're trying, so thank you. But my question is, too, on this FISA that just got passed in the House, is there something there that actually prevents the FBI from going into everybody's private? I mean, we all have people who live overseas now, so everybody can contact somebody overseas. You know, that's a little worrisome. And second one, when you get to it, is I'm really scared about China. I'm not scared about North Vietnam, North Korea and Russia. To me, China is a biggie. I mean, they're just building bases everywhere out on those islands that I don't even understand their proximity to stuff. And we don't seem to do anything. They steal our information, and we don't do anything about that. I mean, I don't know.
On the first question you asked, and I can only speak to the way it passed the House of Representatives yesterday. It could be changed in the United States Senate, or maybe it can't even get through the United States. But what's been the law since the last 15 years, and the extent to which information through surveillance of foreigners, see, because the Constitution doesn't protect people overseas that were. If in their getting information on anybody that's an American citizen, then the Constitution protects that citizen. So before now, there was no restriction on either case of going to. Now, what has been put in the House of Representatives is, if it deals with an American citizen and it isn't connected with national security, there wasn't a question. Let's see. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Senator, for being here. I've not always agreed with you on policy, but I've always respected your integrity. And I think with this Russia thing, even though people don't want to hear, I think the president and protecting his game about shifting the attention away from Russia. I don't know how else your investigation.
Tell me your basis for your statement.
Yeah, a couple things. One is the thing that you and Graham came up with to assess criminal investigation to somebody who was just trying to help protect our democracy. You made an implication a few minutes ago to someone else's answer that we probably didn't read about stuff like that. Well, maybe not about the letters, but we read a lot. And if it weren't for the free press, we wouldn't know any of this. And frankly, your suggestion that, well, maybe, I sort of feel like you've given up on investigating the Russia thing because you bought into the, oh, it's the press writing Trump. He is a, I think with Dianne Feinstein, what do you call her, Sneaky Diane? She caught you and Graham with your pants down. And frankly, that Prince Fauntleroy in the White House has no pants on. And somebody keeps sliding your integrity to protect him. That's why I wonder why the Republicans aren't speaking out against this
Let
stuff.
me respond to the first thing she brought up about the investigation that we asked the FBI to follow up on. Flynn is charged now and pleaded guilty to lying to the FBI. It's a law against lying to the FBI. So in classified information that Graham and I have, also Feinstein has it as well, we found that he may have been lying to the FBI. It's not our determination to make that, because if we made that determination, we couldn't prosecute anyway. So we asked the FBI to look into the information that we have, because if he lied to the FBI, it shouldn't be any different than if Flynn lied to the FBI. Okay, next.
It's not enough. We don't know that it's only a lie that they've done. That's only the first thing that they've been indicted on. We don't know any of the rest of the story.
No, we don't.
We're going to be reading for it.
Go ahead.
New tax bill that was passed, and I don't hear, you only hear people from the news, but when they lowered the tax rate on corporations, were they supposed to give us something like, I guess, everybody knows how to do everybody else's job, but if I did that for them, I would say, okay, then you need to bring back X number of jobs from overseas or something like that.
One of the major car companies is moving a plant from Mexico back to Michigan and creating 2,000 jobs, spending $1 billion doing it. At least 40 corporations have given bonuses to their workers. Some of them have given tens of millions of dollars to security, all directly related to that. Now, we did not decrease that tax on corporations for the purpose that I just gave you. That's a result of it. We did it to export the world, and the rest of the industrial world is around 22 or 23. We're down to 21. England is going to go down to 17. Ireland already down to 11. Now, since we passed ours, all these other countries are talking about they got to reduce ours. So we did it so we can be competitive. But since economists say about 1/4 of the taxes that corporations pay come out of the wages of the workers. This should benefit and increase wages to workers. That's what economists tell us. Okay, next question. Go ahead.
With you as a farmer and a senator, what about the law that was passed right at the end of the year about, seems to be forcing the farmer to sell his grain to a co-op?
Hey, can you give me my iPhone so I can read through the latest information I got?
I think you have it.
I got it. Oh, I left it in the car. Well, I'll get it so I can answer his question. That's the best thing for me to do.
Talking about from the undersecretary?
To read that. Because I dealt with this just yesterday, but as I left, I know that's exactly how far it's going, and I'll be able to read that to you.
Well, I know that you could do something about it.
Yeah. Yeah. But let me make clear, it was an unintended consequence of something being done at the last minute. Yeah. Well, it was something we worked on for 2 weeks, but the final language we put together at the last minute. Yeah. Okay, another question while I'm waiting for that iPhone.
Senator Grassley,
Yeah.
while you're waiting for your phone, seeing that there's so many Trump haters in here, I don't have a question, I just want to make a statement to you.
Sure.
And thank you so much for coming, by the way, giving us your time. But I just love our wonderful President Trump, who's trying to clean up the huge mess that he inherited from years and years. And I wish.
Whether you agree with her or disagree with her, will you please listen to her? Because I didn't hear her laugh when you guys were making comments maybe she disagreed with. Go ahead.
Well, I've had a little under my breath things I have been saying because some of the stuff I hear is just so difficult to listen to. But back to what I was saying, I'm really happy that we have President Trump because we've got such a mess, and I do just wish that the Republicans and Democrats would work together instead of the Democrats just always obstructing and resisting and not ever, they don't want to do anything to help this president because they hate him so much. And then that really does go to another thing, you guys. We're all here. We're all Americans, or hopefully we are glad to be here in a free country with everything that we're given. They say you're born in America, you won the lottery just for being born here. And I just think we've all together. You know, I don't know you, I don't know you, but don't hate so much. We've got to come together and quit hating. Okay, and I don't people that hate Trump.
We are recognizing behavior that's not psychiatrists.
President Trump
but
is
we
saying,
can see abnormal behavior
no,
when
the
we
media,
see it.
Well, the media is just driving that whole narrative that he's crazy and he's terrible. But all of us who know the truth know that President Trump is trying everything he can to save this wonderful country.
That's the whole
If Clinton
thing. He
had done
doesn't
it,
have
Hillary
the
had done it,
ability.
we would have gone right off the edge.
Okay.
Well, listen, lady, I don't know you, but I don't want us to hate each other. And I
don't
wish
hate
you
you.
wouldn't hate your president if he fails.
I'm not
We all
hating.
fail.
I don't hate him. I see him
I
as
don't
not
like him.
capable. He's not capable.
He didn't get where he is like we did in wonderfully competent. Anyway, I'll hush, but thank you, Senator Grassley, for coming, and I don't know
Now,
who these
this
people are.
statement is by the National Grain and Feed Association of the National Council of Farmers Cooperatives, but this is a result of Roberts, Senator Roberts, Chairman of the Ag Committee, Senator Holden of North Dakota and Thune of South Dakota, but I've also been involved in this. Put out a statement, these two organizations put out a statement today, working together to find an equitable solution to this issue brought up. We've heard from many of you that regarding the recent news reports of constituency inquiries in regard to Section 199A provision of the new tax reform bill. Then they got these summary points put out. Well, I guess I'm not going to read it. The bottom line of it is they think that they're close to something. But we can't wait until we pass a bill. So usually what happens while we're waiting for a bill to get passed, could take, could be done tomorrow or it could be done 2 months from now. Then people are selling their grain to the co-ops instead of the private elevators, and the private elevators in a couple of years would be out of business. The usual way is for the chairman of the finance committee, this is the way it was when I was chairman of the finance committee. So now Hatch and Brady, chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, put out a statement. This is going to be changed. Don't count on this staying the way we passed it just before Christmas. So don't go sell your grain. If you're selling to a private elevator, don't go sell it to a co-op because you think you're going to get a better deal because it's not going to last. See? Actually, I mean, it would not make common sense to take action to put a private elevator out of business if you want to do something for the co-op.
Give us a question.
I do have one question I wanted to add. Changing the subject, not on Russia, not on President Trump, GAO investigation into my father's fund. Have you gotten any updates on that GAO investigation at all?
Just the interim report that we've talked to you and your group about, and that they're going to issue one here, so all we got is an update on when they're going to release it.
Senator Grassley, if the findings on the GAO point to what we've investigated about this fund, do you think that will help Congress act and get this issue solved for these pensioners?
I don't know very if they're wrongdoing, and whether or not it's going to affect what the pensions are in the future, that's something I can't predict.
Chuck, you remember down here in Denison, Iowa?
Sure.
Cross Carter, years old. They went broke when they derailed with Pacific Intermountain Express when they went broke because of deregulation of the trucking. Why they did it? They blamed the run that cartage company, and they had a fight amongst themselves in the office. They went out back and duked it out and forgot it, Republican or Democrat, get it straight. And that's how the same thing. I mean, they did. That's how they settle things, John. And if we got people like Secretary of Transportation. Years ago it was Elizabeth Dole. Now it's
Chow.
And they're $2 in Pacific Intermountain Express because of an employee stock option. I signed it. It was my own fault. I should have had my hand. And you can't hold people. But I just thought I'd bring that up. That the Krause boys and right down the line, and I know you know all of them probably.
I don't think I want
A statement that this lady made. Disagreement does not mean hate, and I'm just strong with the best, and of course it's a wonderful thing.
Would you accept the fact that when Democrats and Republicans are disagreeing?
I love America.
They are, but I don't think most Americans think so. Right. They think that we never speak to each other.
I don't think so. I've been in.
People don't look at it this way, but there's has been such an anti-business. Big business is bad, but there's big belly, and if it wasn't for all the grandmas that want to see their kids on Facebook, or, you know what we make big pharma big by all the pills that we all take make them big. We like the loan on the house. We like the loan. We make it. So to think that.
So what did we do about it?
Because we contribute every $40 a month or every $20 a month to the cable company or whatever.
20.
Longer than I've been alive. And I want to say I'm extremely proud of what you do for an example with us as Iowans. It makes us proud. What can we do as Iowans to help you? To help fight all the crap that goes on in Washington, D.C. How can we
Talking to you.
You know, I suppose, you know, I might have 27,000 people I haven't answered yet today, but that's, we're here, so even 27,000. Maybe the other thing would be to make sure, like what you're doing here, every opportunity to contact your congressman, senator, to do it.
I want to thank you for your support of ethanol and supporting the fuel standard, the renewable fuel standard. I want to thank you for your support.
Gasoline every year, so we always got to worry when you have a Republican president, and we thought we wouldn't have to straighten that out, you know, because they were going to cut that back, see.
But thank you.
That's my concern part of the policy, you know, it all have, well, she's changing things, you know, they do have control over there.
But you want to remember, it's all paper, there's consequences of Congress overriding it or that.
Well, you guys have a big job to do. Your job, because the judges, the people he's put in for numbness.
After we had the hearing on, that I said that these people shouldn't, well, no, there was two that I said forward. The other guy himself.
One more question.
Okay, you want to say it? It's public information. Who's the lady that asked about ethanol? He wants to put a cap on what we call RINs, and I'm going to that for those of you that don't know what a problem is. But making progress.
Is else in favor?
And anybody that's in the industry would tell you that it would just move the industry. Other we're going to try to make some progress, but I can't see those now without maybe get done another one.
How you doing?
I thought you were going to run out on us.
We don't want to go into the cold that fast. I'm with the Des Moines Register.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I'm stuck on your...
And you guys are with you, so what we're going to do is have everyone, like Jason and the local paper, go first, local paper first, and then Jason, and then these guys, so then they get things.
Okay, that's good.
And he'll wear the mic for this. And we got to get started. Open it.
Okay.
We're trying to get people's names and stuff.
Okay.
The newspaper.
Okay.
They're the pretty guys. They look better than I do.
Okay, you go ahead. Each
Year 99.
I can tell you why Western Iowa selected first is because an obligation I had to do in Sioux City, so we flew to Omaha. It was one of the that just fell in quickly and time-wise.
Morning, Senator.
Yeah.
Wondered if you could respond to the comments from
Yeah.
affects the discussions going.
Since I wasn't there, comment on specifically, I know what the press reported, and that you're better to keep all people. You.
Yeah, members and commodity help out with that. Magenta and
lawsuit was set because that seed corn going to China very Besides, within 20% of the people on Medicare, Mississippi is made by the state. Iowa decided we're going to, or their contract. Are you the guy that won 5 minutes uninterrupted? With them, and they ought to be the DACA kids by doing maybe 700 miles. That would be replacing some of the 6 DACA visas, maybe in Africa. They're trying to take care of the human in their country that